Take it easy, studio. Security, watch that door. There's a big special we got going this week. Big special, 2-hour special on the living legend, Bruno Sammartino, which I can't say living anymore, unfortunately. Sad day. Clouds have come over the world of wrestling as we know it, pro wrestling, the living legend. I can't get it out of my mind. Now he's just a legend. He'll always live. Bruno Sammartino from Pittsburgh, #1 son, has passed away at the age of 82 years. In the weeks to come, you're going to see some great footage of all the shows we did on Bruno Sammartino, all the clips, all the magazines, all the programs, everything we got. We got it all. Only Rocky Raymond has it all on Bruno. Maybe they'll come out with his biography. I don't know. They want to do these little Congo runs on the W, all these other things they got going on, and I don't know, but let me tell you, they better get the biography out. They better get going on it. They better get going and call me up. I got the footage. Madison Square Garden, Bruno losing to Ivan Koloff. But this week it's sad. It's sad. Everybody knows Rocky Raymond. He loved Bruno. I loved him. He was my #1 man every month. Go to the Boston Garden. That's right, each and every week and see him beat down all his opponents, whether it be Crusher Verdun, Killer Kowalski, Ivan Koloff, the Russian Bear, Crippler Karl Kovacs. How many people remember Crippler Karl Kovacs? I doubt it. But we got it all. We got some more great footage from the Boston Garden. My favorite match, of course, we all know is the Russian Bear, Ivan Koloff. Some of the things that we're going to tell you. We're going to tell you in the weeks to come, these double discs, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. They're both 2 hours of all Bruno Sammartino, legends of professional wrestling. So tune in each and every week on Wednesday night. Keep it tight. It's legends. It's the best of. But in the next weeks to come, when these shows come out, it's going to be 2 hours of Bruno Sammartino. Can you believe it? You better believe it. Now, we all know Bruno Sammartino, from Abruzzo, Italy. He was built out of Abruzzo, Italy, but we all know that he was born in Pizzaferrata, Italy, and the mountains he ran up to with the Germans and all the stories we're going to tell you on Bruno. It's going to be unbelievable. Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, we might go to 4 or 5. We don't know how much footage we got. We just don't know. We're going to just keep going. And they're going to be 2-hour sessions, so keep it tuned in each and every week. Keep it complete right here on your source of community cable. That's right. Revere TV. You better believe it. You better believe it now. It's the best, so forget the rest. Look around. Look at the green screen. Look at all the things we got coming, all the things we got going. And, of course, watch for our new location. All right, that picture of the newspaper there, they got a Bruno Sammartino. This was the Boston Globe. They were nice enough to put this picture up of Bruno, and that was one of his pictures in his parlor, I believe, when I got to visit his house. Unfortunately, the clip does say that he has passed away at 82, but here's a couple of the greatest things that Bruno has done in his career. Longest reigning WWF champion, 4,040 days. Can you believe it? Longest consecutive run of any WWE champion, 2,803 days. And he won his first championship in 48 seconds in Madison Square Garden. And also sold out New York City's Madison Square Garden 188 times. Unbelievable. 2013, he was nice enough to go into the Hall of Fame of the WWE. His early years in wrestling was from 1959 to 1963. Bruno Leopoldo and Francisco Bruno died in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on April 18th, 2018. And it was a bad day for Rocky Raymond. Very bad day. It was one of my heroes. Kept me out of trouble. Being 5'10", 265 pounds, debuted in 1959, trained by Ace Freeman and Rex Perry. Son had a brief career in the WWF, David Sammartino, which I got to wrestle. And of course, 1963 to 1981 was his first reign as champion. And, well, he wrestled from 63 to 81, actually. His championship reign was from 1963 to 77. 1971, where he was beat by Ivan Koloff, in his second reign, where he beat Stan Stasiak, 1973 to 1977, where he was beat by superstar Billy Graham. And he initially retired in 1978 after doing some out-of-ring commentating and some appearances here and there, and even came down and get to see the interview, which you will see the interview on Bruno Sammartino coming up in these weeks to come right here on Legends of Professional Wrestling. And right now, coming up, the first one of my favorite pictures in my collection, Bruno and Pedro. As you all know, Bruno and Pedro were tag teamed, and they had that big match at Shea Stadium, which was over an hour, I believe, at that particular time, unheard of, unless you were wrestling for the NWA down in, Florida or the Texas area, and they used to wrestle an hour just like snapping your finger. But up here in the big town of New York City, the big mecca of professional wrestling, Madison Square Garden, Bruno was, the big man. He was the man that beat Buddy Rogers. He was the man that took all the glitz and glamour out of professional wrestling. There was no ring jackets. There was no ring music. There was no fireworks. It was just something that I call Bruno Sammartino charisma. And not too many of these wrestlers today have it, and they're not going to get it. So they just better forget it. And these pictures of Bruno Sammartino go back to 1963. They all go back when he first won that title. And then there's Bruno in Madison Square Garden when he was with the Italian-American flag and the American flag. And Bruno right there, that was after he beat Stan Stasiak in Madison Square Garden, where we're going to show you that clip, the Mac Classics, when Bruno won that championship belt that he's holding up in the air right now from Stan Stasiak, that's right, in Madison Square Garden. And then you see the ring announcer as well as a halfway Arnold Skolin and the referee Nick Crow. But basically, Bruno was a great champion. Everyone knows his region. It goes from 1963 when he beat Buddy Rogers all the way up to 1971. Then in 1971, he beat Stasiak again and basically took the title for another 7 years, because it went from, I believe, Buddy Rogers and Koloff. Koloff beat Bruno, and then Pedro beat Koloff, and then Stasiak beat Pedro. And I believe it goes on and on. Superstar Billy Graham beat Bruno. And then not too many people know about this particular match. It was Bob Backlund and Antonio Inoki in Japan. Antonio Inoki beat Bob Backlund. And then in Japan, the rematch, Backlund beat Inoki, and they never really recognized that in the WWF. There's Bruno and Pedro in a tag match. That could have been the match with Tanaka and Fuji throwing the salt in each other's eyes, which they built up for that big Shea Stadium match. Bruno and Pedro were a tag team on a couple of occasions, and they basically kept going up and down the East Coast, and then finally they had that feud with Tanaka and Fuji. And then you see George the Animal Steel, who was one of the big contenders for Bruno's belt, and some say that George Steele was the reason why Bruno lost the belt to Ivan Koloff, because Koloff won the belt from Bruno, and George Steele wrestled Bruno, I believe, 2-3 weeks before and hit Bruno in the back with a chair, and that could have been the reason why. And it's a big slam by Bruno Sammartino on Blackjack Mulligan. And you got Smasher Stallone here. Smasher Stallone coming to Boston a couple of times, and you got Beppo Mongo, better known as Nikolai Volkov, but back in the day he was Beppo Mongo, very impressive. And that was Madison Square Garden. And a big feud that was always really king of endurance, Killer Kowalski. This man could go an hour like nobody's business. I wrestled him when I was 21, IBW Hall. He blew me up. And you see Bruno, a bloody mess. And Kowalski got him in the corner there. That was also one of the great feuds of the old Tri-WF, because, every time that Bruno came to Boston or he came to Philly or New York, he had a new opponent. He might have had a Texas Death Match. He might have had a Steel Cage match. And they might have pushed it the third time to maybe even a Lumberjack match. But the storylines and the particular, moods of the wrestlers always changed from month to month. And some of the there's that great picture of Killer Kowalski and Bruno Sammartino at Fenway Park. That was the Sicilian stretcher match, which of course Bruno won, and Kowalski did go out on a stretcher. And then we have the Sheik, the original Sheik from Detroit, with his manager, Eddie Kretschmann. Some of these great photos, you won't see these anywhere but where? In the collection of Rocky Raymond. That's right, he's got it all right here. There's another shot of the original Sheik and Bruno Sammartino. I believe that might have been Pittsburgh. It looks like Pittsburgh to me. And the Sheik always gave Bruno a fight. He used to throw the fire. Then we got the big man, Don Leo Jonathan. Don Leo Jonathan was a big guy. As you can see, he towered over Sammartino. But of course, Bruno did beat him also. And Don Leo Jonathan coming down with a big forearm smashed in the back of the neck of Bruno Sammartino. And some of the great matches. And then we got Stan the Man Stasiak getting a chair waffled up against his head here. And you can see no one was holding that chair, so that chair was free flying, and it hit him right in the side of the head, shoulder. And then you got Stasiak now with a blatant chokehold on Sammartino during that same match, I believe. And Stasiak on the ropes now as Bruno's trying to work on the wrist of the hot punch specialist, Stan Stasiak. And then you got another contender. Bruno fought them all. Here's one with Baron Von Raschke. You know, Baron Von Raschke from the AWA. Toured down to Minneapolis most of the time, and the Baron had that claw. Here's another shot of Bruno and George the Animal Steele, who was one of Bruno's toughest opponents, I believe, to the time that George Steele would come in, because he was a phys ed teacher. He'd come in around October. There's another shot of Bruno and Baron Von Raschke. And then we have Tanaka and Fuji, the men from Japan. Mr. Fuji and Professor Tanaka gave Bruno many sore nights. I'm sure Tanaka was one of the great contenders for Bruno's Worldwide Wrestling Federation Championship. And there's another shot of the original Sheik and Bruno as he's choking him on that second rope. And then we got Don Leo Jonathan, got Bruno Sammartino high in the air in the backbreaker. And that was Bruno's move, the backbreaker. That's how he beat Buddy Rogers back in 1963. On the 17th, and it was the 5th month, and Bruno again with Baron Von Raschke, I believe, another great photo, and you can see the original Sheik and Bruno, and you can also see the manager, Eddie Kretschmann. He was one of the managers from out of Canada, and there's another shot of Killer Kowalski. Unbelievable photography. These pictures were collected over the years. I don't even remember half the people that possibly could have been taken. I know there was a Frank Amato, there was another one, Bill Apner, there was several. There's, I believe, Bruno pinning Killer Kowalski in a tag match with George the Animal Steele, and I believe that he had him in that backslide. And then you got Dominic DeNucci, who was a very good friend of Bruno Sammartino's. He also had many tag matches with Bruno Sammartino, whether it be Dominic DeNucci and Bruno against Koloff and Superstar. And then we got one of my favorite tag teams in the WWF at that time, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, the Valiant Brothers. They had a great feud, as you all know. John L. Sullivan, who later became Johnny Valiant, and then you had Johnny, Jimmy, Jerry. There was three Valiant brothers, and they had some great matches with Bruno throughout the big arenas. Back in the day, it was the Philadelphia Spectrum, it was Madison Square Garden, and they used to go up to Montreal, and they had all the great shows in Boston Garden. But the the Waldo Von Erich, which I think was one of Bruno's hated opponents because of the Germans, and we all know the story about Bruno and his family going up to that mountain in Abruzzi, Italy, running from the Germans back in the day, and his mother used to go down the mountain to get the food and, you know, chance everything just to, you know, keep the food on the table, or I should say wherever they were in that grassy knoll up there in the mountains of Abruzzi, Italy. And then you have Waldo Von Erich here again with Bruno in the corner, a blatant chokehold on Bruno. And Bruno was, I remember a match with Bruno and Waldo Von Erich in Boston Garden when Bruno was getting a trophy awarded to him by a fan, and I believe Waldo Von Erich grabbed the trophy and smashed it all over the place. Here's another one with an arm winder on, I believe that's Jimmy Valiant, Luscious Johnny, Gentleman Jerry, and of course Handsome Jimmy Valiant, which was the first Valiant. And there he is right there with Bruno Sammartino extending a handshake. And then you have all the great tag matches in Boston. And there's another one with Bruno with an arm bar on Smasher Stallone. Yep. And then another one here with Professor Toro Tanaka with a side headlock. Bruno had a great reign as champion. You know, the first time from 63 to 71, then he went all the way from 71 to 77. There's another one with Professor Toro Tanaka. I mean, people know that Tanaka was on the plane, it was getting hijacked, and he gave the guy with the gun a karate chop and saved the day. And then there's the original Sheik with Bruno Sammartino, side headlock. And then there's another great picture of Arnold Skolin, the Golden Boy, with Bruno Sammartino, the living legend. That's right. Just recently put in the Hall of Fame last year with the WWE Entertainment. And there's Dick the Bulldog Brower. What a forearm he had. This man, Brower Power, hit real back and hit you with that forearm and definitely level you. Here's another one. I believe it's in Pittsburgh. Bruno Sammartino talking to one of the ring attendants, I believe. And then we have another shot of Bruno. Unbelievable. Bruno Sammartino was probably one of the unbelievable picture takers. People took pictures of Bruno, although there's an old one back in the 1960s, I believe. Gene Kanish. How many of you people remember Gene Kanish? And basically that was Madison Square Garden, I believe, Bruno Sammartino, back in the 60s. And there's another one where he defended that title. I can tell that's Madison Square Garden because there's 4 ropes there. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you know, the wrestling ring only has 3 ropes, but in Madison Square Garden, they used to use that old boxing ring. Here's another shot of bloody Bruno and Pedro coming in for the save. I believe that might have been in the match against Killer Kowalski when Pedro came in to save Bruno from his vicious attack. And there's another one of the Valiant Brothers, Handsome Jimmy and Luscious Johnny. And he had a lot of tag matches with Bruno. And then we have a TV taping from Philadelphia, PA, I believe, when Strongbow got attacked and Bruno and Pedro came out to save the Indian. Haystack Calhoun was another one that was in several matches with Bruno. Haystack Calhoun and Chief J Strongbow, and I believe that Bruno and Strongbow come out to save good old Haystacks as they used to attack him. And there's Bruno on his favorite move, the backbreaker, with John Tolos. John Tolos, you know, he come out of California, I believe. And then you have another great match with Bruno defending that title. In 1972, Bruno did venture off to the California West Coast and won that Battle Royal at the Olympic Auditorium. And then one of Bruno's favorite, I would say, and one of his closest friends in the wrestling profession was Dominic DeNucci. And then we have another shot of Bruno against George the Animal Steele. And then we have Ernie the Cat Lad, the big Ernie the Cat Lad. He played for the, he was a football player that I believe he played for the Bears. I'm not sure, one of those football teams. And Bruno had a great match with Ernie the Cat Lad. The names go on with Bruno. The pictures go on because Bruno was the most photographed wrestler at this particular time, being between 70 and 84, Bruno. And then there's big Nikolai Volkov with Bruno and a bear hug. And then there's Buddy Wagner. Buddy Wagner, how many people remember Buddy Wagner on Channel 56 Wrestling with Arnie Skoll? It had to be the summer months because Arnie got that styling shirt on. And that's Bruno Sammartino, who was very rare appearance on TV. He'd always go on TV and tell you about the matches that he was going to have and all the things that was going to be going on with the situation. Here's a program cover. Bruno Sammartino from Madison Square Garden. And he was going to be wrestling Beppo Mongo, I believe. And let me just give you a runoff of that card, Madison Square Garden. The main event was Beppo Mongo against Bruno, the United States champion. They had, at that particular time, Pedro Morales was the United States champion against the Wolfman. Everybody knows the Wolfman. And then Ivan Koloff was the world champion at this particular time, and he defended that Worldwide Wrestling Federation against Gene Dubois. And we also had Blackjack Mulligan making his first appearance in the Boston area, and he wrestled Manuel Soto. And then we had the midgets on the card, and also the last match of the or I should say was the opening match, Joe Turco against the Black Demon. Another great card, 1:30 p.m. It was Bruno Sammartino again, and I believe he was wrestling in one of the matches against one of the Mongols. And this is the part of the program with the programs that we were going to go into, but this is another one. It was a Texas death match against a German, I believe. All these great programs now, you don't see these programs. This was the program you would get in the mail from Abe Ford to get you to come to the show in person. And there's the Sheik, another great program with Haystack Calhoun on the cover, Bruno Sammartino. These go back. These are the old days of professional wrestling, which we call the legends of professional wrestling. Right here, we got Kowalski, we got Sammartino on the cover with that referee, Tom McNeely, which was he was a great boxer at one time. And then he hung up the tights and became a referee. There's Guido Mongo, or there was Beppo Mongo, Ivan Koloff, and another great lineup. They used to put the lineup in there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There were about 10 matches that night. Great array. And then Bruno against Beppo Mongo again, because the Mongols were very devastating. Beppo and Guido Mongo, they were very, they were very dangerous. They were the tag team champions, and they were first managed by Tony Angelo, an old-time manager. And then they came back, and of course, Albano took over all Tony Angelo's stable, if you will. Back in the days, they had stable, 4 or 5 guys. Here's a big program right here, Abe Ford. Everyone remembers Abe Ford on this 4th of July. They had the fireworks in Boston. And Abe Ford, great wrestling promoter back in the day. And there's one around the Christmas months with Bruno Sammartino with the goodie bag. And you can see in the goodie bag that Gorilla Monsoon was in that bag, Haystack Calhoun. And you can see that man with the cowboy hat. That's Bob Orton Jr., or Randy Orton, that's the big old Bob Orton. And here's the Valentine Day Massacre with Bruno Sammartino. I believe he wrestled Hans Mortier back in that. And this is a real old one, the Valentine's Day Massacre. And there's another lineup here. You can see all the great programs from the Boston Garden. Back in the day, they had an open and fold, a 2-page program. And they'd show you the lineup. They give you a little story. And you can see Strongbow down there. And this was when Strongbow and Bruno wrestled, I believe, the Mongols. There's the fabulous Moolah on the cover of a program. Of course, all these programs were signed by Bruno Sammartino, the living legend. Guido Mongo. There's another one. The Mongols were very impressive, like I said. They were very big men. And then you got another program with Bruno on the cover. Like I can tell you, Bruno was the most photographed wrestler at one time. It's a funny thing. You know, I spoke with Bruno back in the day when he was doing his biography, still not done yet, or it's done or not done, or whatever the case may be, and all these pictures that Bruno was trying to get for his biography, and all these photographers that took pictures of Bruno and made money off Bruno wanted to sell the pictures to Bruno. But who did Bruno call? Me. Beep. Here's one. Here's a record of Bruno Sammartino. And right after this shot of Bruno Sammartino on this record, it was a record interview of Bruno Sammartino. We're going to go to the Mac Classics from the Boston Garden right after this shot right here of Bruno Sammartino. And this shot was an album. It wasn't an album. It was a 45. So let's go to the part of the program that we call the Mac Classics from Madison Square Garden.
Patterson Square Garden, 1977 title change. Stan the Man Stasiak against the living legend, Bruno Sammartino. Oh yeah, we got a great array of professional wrestling from the Big Apple. Bruno Sammartino, Stan the Man Stasiak. And there's the bell for our opening action. As they tie up now, it's Stasiak and Sammartino. And a collar and elbow right here. And they're filling each other out in this Worldwide Wrestling Federation Championship match as they go for a switch. Sammartino sits out, and Stasiak's amazed here at the speed of the living legend. Bruno Sammartino, topless lock again on Stan the Man Stasiak. And Stasiak beating Pedro Morales for the championship. Sammartino in for the rematch with Stasiak. And they're going back and forth with this top wrist lock. Our referee, Nick Kroll, looking on anxiously. And Stasiak with a hair pull on Sammartino. And a second hair pull, and the referee out of position. Stan the Man Stasiak, the hot punch specialist, managed by the Grand Wizard of Professional Wrestling. And it's Stasiak and Sammartino going back and forth with the top wrist lock, feeling each other out in this test of strength here. And Sammartino trips up Stasiak. Oh yeah, this is the best of Madison Square Garden. And Sammartino with a side headlock and a crisscross now. And Stasiak going back and forth. Bruno Sammartino. Stasiak scoops up Sammartino. Big scoop slam now. And a 2 count on Sammartino. Hip toss by Stasiak. Kick out by Bruno. Stasiak sent reeling now. And Sammartino in some kind of shape. Stan the Man Stasiak, the man with the hot punch. You see he's got that Ted fist now, telling the referee that Bruno pulled the hair. And it's Bruno Sammartino, Stan Stasiak now. Side headlock by Stasiak. And Sammartino shoots him in now, one shoulder tackle. And a drop down by Sammartino. Into a hammerlock now. It's Sammartino taking control of the match. One of his favorite moves here. As he gets it down to the center of the ring now. Working on that hammerlock, it's Bruno Sammartino. Not too many people get the wrestlers in the middle of the ring like this. And the crowd behind Sammartino. And his famous hammerlock. Oh, they love him here in the Big Apple. It's Bruno Sammartino, Stan Stasiak. Championship match for the world title. And it's Sammartino with the hammerlock. One shoulder tackle by Stasiak. Sammartino with a big hip toss now. Into an arm drag. And Bruno controls that arm bar. On Stan the Man Stasiak. And it's Sammartino now wrenching the arm of Stasiak. Trying to weaken one part of the body. Brother! And Stasiak now. Looks like his arm's a little wrenched out here by Bruno. And Stasiak shoots him in now. Big scoop slam by Stasiak. Sammartino kicks out. Scoop slam by Sammartino. Back into that arm drag by Bruno Sammartino, the living legend. And Bruno Sammartino controlling that arm now on Stasiak. And it's Stan the Man Stasiak, Bruno Sammartino center ring here in Madison Square Garden. Big right hand by Stan the Man. And he hit him with that hot punch right on the jaw. A second punch to the jaw, Sammartino. And he's going in for that blatant chokehold. And our referee starting to count. Stan the Man Stasiak now setting him up now. Oh, he hit him with that right hand. Leveling the strong man from Abruzzo, Italy. And Sammartino down on the mat as Stasiak trying to put those heavy boots to him. Lateral press. Just a 2 count now. Stasiak using the ropes for leverage. And our referee, Nick Kroll. Stasiak in for another lateral press. Sammartino now. Back to his feet. Stasiak for that hot punch. Watch out. Oh, Sammartino blocks it with a boot. And Sammartino now ramming his shoulder into the midsection of Stan the Man Stasiak from Buzzard Creek, Oregon. Big bail out of the corner. Sammartino sends Stasiak railing. Stan the Man Stasiak now working on that lower lumbar. Look a little bit shaken up now. Sammartino. Oh, big knee to the midsection. Oh, a barreling forearm across the back of the neck of Sammartino. And Stasiak using the lacings on his boots. Putting the boots to Sammartino hot and heavy. Stan the Man Stasiak. Sammartino draped on those ropes. Another right hand on Sammartino. Right on the kisser. Sammartino down the corner now. And Stasiak putting those brutal boots to the living legend. Going for that hot punch again. Sammartino blocks it. Hip toss by Sammartino. Oh, a barreling right hand to the midsection. And another uppercut now. Twisting Sammartino around. Rake across the eyes now. Stand man Stasiak. He whips him into the corner now. This could be the move. The big double move. Sammartino wins the World Championship. Bruno Sammartino defeated Stand Man Stasiak. We had to cut the film. A quick splice, we missed it. But Sammartino hit him with that double move, regaining the World Championship. Bruno Sammartino, the living legend. And Stasiak, a dejected man. And there's New York City's best ushering back to the dressing room. And there he is, the living legend, Bruno Sammartino, winning the championship back again. Unbelievable action on the best of Madison Square Garden. Unbelievable action. And the manager, the Golden Boy, Arnie Skolin. In Garden, April 10th, 1976, a Russian chain match between Bruno Sammartino and the Russian bear, Ivan Koloff. And the manager at this particular time, the Captain Lou Albano, a frustrated manager in the WWF at this particular time. And then coming to the ring right now, the living legend, Bruno Sammartino, and Albano does not want to let him into the ring. Bruno Sammartino, managed by the Golden Boy, Arnold Skolin. And you're going to believe this is going to be one of the most brutal matches you're ever going to see from the Boston Garden. And our referee for this one, John Stanley. A Russian chain match. One of a kind, never had been seen before, and has not been seen up until this time in the professional wrestling profession. Ivan Koloff, this is his match. This is a Russian chain match. Captain Lou Albano vowing that he's going to bust up Sammartino tonight with this Russian chain match, one of the most brutal matches ever in professional wrestling. More brutal than a steel cage match, more brutal than a battle royale, and more brutal than a lumberjack match. And this week on the Mat Classics, you're going to see the best of Bruno Sammartino, Volume 2. And Lou Albano's trying to get his hands on Bruno now. Bruno, big boot to the midsection. Lou Albano sent railing, and Ivan Koloff, watch out. Here's our bell for our Russian chain match, but Albano's still in the ring. Big slam by Sammartino. And John Stanley ushers Albano outside the ring here in Boston, at the Boston Garden. Oh, you're going to see some great Mat Classics this week. You're going to see the Russian chain match. You're going to see Superstar Billy Graham's first appearance against Bruno. You're going to see Sammartino against Mr. Fuji. Bruno Sammartino against George the Animal Steel, the Detroit Destroyer. And getting back to the action in the ring, it's Ivan Koloff jumping the gun, smashing Sammartino off the top of the forehead with that Russian chain, that 15-foot-long Russian chain. As you can see, Ivan Koloff cinching up on it now. As you can see, Sammartino, Koloff in a test of strength here with a tug-of-war. This match is going to be brutal, a very brutal match. And Sammartino pokes the eyes of Ivan Koloff. Down across the small of the back, it's Bruno Sammartino. That chain's gonna hurt. And the crowd here in Boston looking forward to this match after the many battles with Koloff and Sammartino. Irish whip into the corner now. Koloff sending that corner, and they're using that chain as a tool. Sammartino puts it across his throat now, and Koloff down to both knees. That steel chain around the throat of the Russian bear, Ivan Koloff, and referee John Stanley. Not much of a referee in this one. You're not going to be doing any counting. You're not going to be doing any pinfalls. You can only win this match by submission. The Russian chain match. Once in a lifetime match. You won't see this on cable. You won't see this on any of the tapes that are sold in the store. You'll only see this match on the great Mat Classics from the Boston Garden. And Sammartino with a right hand upside the head of Ivan Koloff, and he's using that chain again as a tool as he whips Koloff into that corner. Going in with the blatant chokehold, that's Bruno Sammartino, the living legend. Koloff coming right back and using the chain around Sammartino's throat. And our referee, John Stanley, is not about to step in on these two giant men in the Boston Garden. This battle, unbelievable action, the Russian chain match. This is Ivan Koloff's match. This is the match that he wanted. And Sammartino ducking nobody, being the true champion that he is. And Koloff just laying him in on Sammartino, choking, hitting on the forehead. Hard, heavy blows. And Sammartino stuck in the corner now. And Koloff leaning in with that 310 pounds. And Sammartino returns one of his own. Irish whip into the corner by Ivan Koloff. Sammartino now hanging on them corner turnbuckles. And Ivan Koloff railing now, reversal now. Sammartino sends Koloff railing in a reversal with this Russian chain. They're using this chain as a tool. Big boot to the midsection of Ivan Koloff and Sammartino now. They're using that chain around each other's throat quite frequently in this match. And Koloff outside the ring now trying to get away from Sammartino. And Sammartino rails him into that steel corner post. Back into the ring now, it's Bruno Sammartino with another Irish whip. Sammartino wrapping that chain around his fist. And he's hitting Koloff with a couple of heavy blows in the corner on the top of the head of the Russian bear, Ivan Koloff, who seems to be in some heavy trouble here in the corner now. And it looks like Ivan Koloff, he may be lacerated, he may be busted wide open by this steel chain. And our referee John Stanley looks on to see if there's too much blood, if this match is going to continue. And Sammartino hitting him hot and heavy with those high, heavy right hands to the top of the head of Ivan Koloff, the Russian bear, using that chain as a devastating tool now. It looks like Koloff, looks like he might be busted wide open here. And Sammartino like a wild animal in the ring as he's wrapping that chain around the fist, looking for the okay from the crowd. And Ivan Koloff, the man that beat Bruno Sammartino back in 1971 for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation Championship in Madison Square Garden. And Koloff now looks a little dizzy on his feet now. Sammartino, a heavy right hand to the top of the head. And Koloff busted wide open here. The blood's flowing. The blood's flowing down the forehead of Ivan Koloff. Sammartino now caught the chain on the back of his neck. And Koloff down with a blatant chokehold. But as you can see, the face of Ivan Koloff, a Russian bear, he's all bloody. He's a bloody mess now as Sammartino on his back, getting choked by the Russian bear. This match is anything but a wrestling match. This is a crazy, brutal Russian chain match. Sammartino, Koloff outside the ring as they're ramming each other into the tables, into the barriers around the ring. Sammartino got a chair now. Oh, he cracked him across the back of the neck now. Ivan Koloff sent reeling. And Koloff smashing Sammartino with a chair. This has become a real Donnybrook here in Boston at the Boston Garden. Sammartino back into the ring now. Ivan Koloff putting the boots to him hot and heavy now. And Ivan Koloff with the chain around Bruno Sammartino's neck. And Ivan Koloff leaning down with that 310 pounds. As you can see, Ivan Koloff busted wide open now as our referee John Stanley checking Bruno Sammartino, seeing if he's out. He may be out on his knees. And he's down to his knees now. And Koloff cinching in, but Sammartino hit him. He hit him with a heavy blow to the midsection now. And Bruno Sammartino looks to be ramming the head of Koloff. He stretched him. He's got him wrapped up with that chain. He's got him all wrapped up. And John Stanley's ringing the bell. It looks like Ivan Koloff has conceded. Yes, Ivan Koloff has submitted in the corner now. And Sammartino wrapped him up more like a bull rope, more like a piece of cattle. And Bruno Sammartino, the winner of this Russian chain match. Unbelievable action from the great Matt Classics from the Boston Garden. As you can see outside the ring, it's Angelo Savoli and a couple of the referees, Mario Savoli and Tom McNeely, helping out the Russian bear Ivan Koloff, along with Silvano Souza, helping out Ivan Koloff, the Russian bear. Here's a big one now. It's November 29, 1985. The Worldwide Wrestling Federation title. Bruno Sammartino, the living legend, defending his title against superstar Billy Graham. With this manager, the Grand Wizard of professional wrestling, unbelievable Mat Classics from the Boston Garden. I'm the voice of the Mat Classics, Rocky Raymond. And this match is going to be an unbelievable match as superstars in the middle of the ring boasting about what he's going to do to the living legend tonight here at the Boston Garden. And coming into the ring now, it's the living legend, Bruno Sammartino, with his manager, I believe, Arlo Skolin, the Golden Boy. And tonight, Bruno got his head full against this man, superstar Billy Graham. His first single appearance at the Boston Garden against the living legend. And our referee for this one will be John Stanley, the main event referee for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. And the Grand Wizard helping out his protege. And you can see the size of superstar Billy Graham. Great physique. Unbelievable action going to be coming to you from the Boston Garden. As you can see, the Grand Wizard helping out superstar Billy Graham is trying to get that shirt by his big arm. That big 22-inch bicep now. As the Grand Wizard having a little bit of problems. Look at the size of the superstar Billy Graham. A great physique. Unbelievable action. Here's our bell now for our big main event now as Superstar pushes Sammartino back to the collar buckle now. As he boasts to the crowd that he is the superstar. And again, Sammartino back to the collar buckles. And it's Bruno Sammartino, superstar Billy Graham. Sammartino pushes him back. Big arm drag by Bruno Sammartino as he cinches up with that big arm bar on superstar Billy Graham. These are the great Mat Classics. You won't see these in too many places. If you get your hands on them, this is what professional wrestling used to be. This is why they call it professional wrestling as they call it today, entertainment. But back in the day of Bruno Sammartino, it was professional wrestling. Collar and elbow now by superstar Billy Graham and Bruno Sammartino. And they're starting to feel each other out with a topless lock now on Bruno Sammartino with superstar Billy Graham. As he's cinching up now, using the leverage a couple of inches over Sammartino. And Sammartino known for his strength as well as superstar Billy Graham. They're going back and forth now. Bruno down to one knee now, and it looks like superstar Billy Graham coming back now at Sammartino. Back and forth with this test of strength. They're feeling each other out in this championship match. Oh yeah, the great Mat Classics from the Boston Garden. This is the way wrestling used to be. As superstar Billy Graham reaches behind and pulls the hair of Sammartino to get the upper hand. And these two battle for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation many times, as you may know. Superstar Billy Graham, the man that beat Bruno, using his legs on the ropes in a match in Maryland. And you can see Superstar right now in the test of strength and Sammartino on the receiving end of this pinfall, if you will. And John Stanley just a 2 count now, and they're going back and forth. And Superstar Billy Graham losing his footage now. And Sammartino up to his knees. The crowd's behind the living legend, the Abruzzi strongman. A great following here in the North End. As well as anywhere else, New York City, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. Bruno Sammartino, one of the greatest wrestling champions of all time. One of the greatest records, lifting up the 640-pound Haystack Calhoun and taking on all the professional wrestlers that the Worldwide Wrestling Federation threw up in front of him. Defending his title many times here at the Boston Garden, as well as all around the world, going to Japan and wrestling the Giant Baba, as well as traveling to California, as well as many other places throughout the world of professional wrestling. And it's Sammartino, superstar Billy Graham, and a test of strength here at the great Boston Garden. The great Mat Classics brought to you by Rocky Raymond, yours truly. And I'm the voice of the great Mat Classics. I can tell you what it was, what it can be, and what it's gonna be. Oh yeah, all the great matches. Sammartino now on the receiving end of superstar Billy Graham. Irish whip into the corner now. Oh, look at the blow. Heavy turnbuckle. And Sammartino just a 2 count. And superstar Billy Graham thrown off with that lateral press. Behind Sammartino with the reverse chin lock. Superstar Billy Graham. Oh yeah, he was one of the greatest opponents for Bruno Sammartino with the tie-dye tights. He's got more color than a box of crayons, superstar Billy Graham. More charisma than you can believe. And right now, a lot of press by Bruno, just a 2 count now. And they're going back and forth with a heavy right hand now. And another right hand now, and another right hand, sending superstar reeling. And this match is beginning to take its toll on superstar Billy Graham. The heavy right hand blows by the Abruzzi strongman, Bruno Sammartino. And the crowd want to see Bruno put him away. Right hand to the top of the head now, Irish whip into the collar now, superstar Billy Graham. Bruno Sammartino with the reversal. Superstar with the superstar bear hug on the living legend. John Stanley right there. Waiting to see if Sammartino is going to be put out by superstar Billy Graham's powerful bear hug. The superstar Billy Graham, one of the most powerful #1 contenders for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation Championship. And a right blow to the side of the head of superstar. Second one now by Sammartino. A third one. Oh, Billy Graham rams him into that corner buckle. And Bruno Sammartino on the receiving. Oh, he ducks. Sammartino ducking now. Superstar Billy Graham hit that corner post. It looks like he may be lacerated. Oh, big shoulder tackle now. These two men are huge. And another one now. Sammartino puts a bear hug of his own on. Sammartino known for his strength too. The backbreaker, the bear hug, all the great strength moves that Sammartino. Oh, a heavy blow to the side of the head now. Superstar Billy Graham sending Sammartino outside the ring. The referee, John Stanley, beginning to count now. Superstar won't let him back into the ring. And the count's getting up there. Getting up there now. Sammartino. Oh, another blow now. Sammartino outside the ring. John Stanley beginning to count. And they're both outside the ring, battling outside against those barriers. Those security barriers. It looks like superstar Billy Graham. Looks like someone's going to be counted out. It looks like Sammartino takes the fall and the match with a count out. Superstar Billy Graham did not make it back into the ring on the 10 count. And Sammartino, this isn't the way that Bruno likes to win his matches, but this is the way it is tonight. Sammartino winning the match on a count out here at the great Boston Garden. And Sammartino now leaving the ring now. Oh! Dirty move by superstar Billy Graham, knocking Bruno off the ring apron. And the winner of the fall in the match on the count out, the living legend, Bruno Sammartino. Superstar in the middle of the ring now, posing for the crowd.
Right here in Revere Beach, the Saint Sculptors. You better be here all over the coast to coast, from Boston to Bangor and back. I'm the Boston bad boy. I want to tell you about what's going on this week and all the great things. But remember to watch my show on Wednesdays. You already know about that one, on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And then in Saugus, we're going to be in Saugus from 9 to 10 and 10 to 11. So I want you to be there with me and Peanut and Bella. Be there.
And we're back here, Empire Pro Wrestling New England, as well as the legends of professional wrestling right here. I hope you enjoyed all those great mat classics for Madison Square Garden. It was unbelievable back in those days. You can never bring those days back. And those were the days, as Bruno would say, those were the Bruno days. Those were the days of real hard blows. And you know, between 1963 and 84 were probably the days of, because Bruno won the title from Buddy Rogers back in 1963 on the 17th day in the 5th month, and Bruno won that title. And then of course he defended that belt all over the world, whether it be Japan. He was in Australia for a period of time where he met up with Sparrows Harrion and those great wrestlers back in those days. And Koloff beat Bruno, unfortunately, January 18th, 1971. And then Pedro beat Koloff 2/8/71, a couple of short months later. And Pedro was a great champion also, as you could see on the Legends of Professional Wrestling, Pedro Morales. We did that before the Bruno. And then, of course, Pedro got beat by Stan Stasiak. And then Stan Stasiak got beat by Billy Graham, beat Bruno. And then between that period of time that Bruno got beat by superstar Billy Graham, Bob Backlund beat superstar Billy Graham. And then a title match that people don't quite remember because it wasn't really advertised in the States was Japanese star Antonio Inoki he actually beat Bob Backlund in Japan on one given night, and he also had a return match, Antonio Inoki against Bob Backlund, in Tokyo, Japan, and that was 1983. Those two matches weren't really publicized on you know, the New York network or the area here. It was only in Japan. Wouldn't really came to many people's attention that Antonio Inoki was the Worldwide Wrestling Federation champion at one time. And then back after that, the Iron Sheik defeated Bob Backlund. And then, of course, we all know that Hulk Hogan beat the Iron Sheik on I believe it was 123.84. And basically, that was about the time where I stepped out around 84, somewhere around there, when the last match I remember going to the old Boston Garden was Bruno Sammartino in a steel cage match against Rocky's grandfather, Peter Maivia, or Maivia, maybe pronounced a couple of different versions. But that was one of the last matches that I had gone to the Boston Garden. I never missed a show at the Garden. Of course, with my 8mm camera, taped all the great footage that I do have in my collection. And if you'd like to see any particular matches, or you might know of any other matches that I might have on 8mm converted to VHS, and then we bumped it up to, I believe, DVD, just go to Empire Pro Rest, WRES, at AOL.com, and you can leave me a note. You might want to see one of the great matches that I may have. I have a lot of stuff. Maybe be Bobby Duncombe, Stan Hansen in the cage with Bruno after he broke his neck in Boston, when Bruno destroyed him in Boston. All the other great matches from Lou Albano in the cage. Lou Albano had his army of guys after Bruno all the time, but each and every month in Boston Garden, it was a different match. It was a different, you know, type match, and all these different wrestlers had different styles for Bruno, and that's what made it so interesting, because Bruno had to defend his title against each, and they were big, small, short, stocky, cocky, anything. Bruno defended his title for a long, long time, and I tell you, he was the foundation of professional wrestling. And without the road having a pavement on it, there's no road. You know, all them great things that Bruno did for the professional wrestling business. And of course, he finally broke down. Why, I don't know. Maybe reasons being, could be, you know, whatever the case may be. But Bruno did go into the Hall of Fame last year. And it was a great, you know, memories of me, memories with Bruno. Back in the days, I met Bruno back in the days on Superstars of Wrestling. I wrestled his son, David Sammartino. It was almost like wrestling Bruno, because David and Bruno had the same style, the same moves, the drop down to the arm drags. When Bruno got whipped into the corner, it looked like they broke his back. It was so much more believable than what it is today. 950 clotheslines, 777 suplexes. You know, the moves aren't really put in the right spot at the right time to get the crowd up, the crowd down, and all the great things. Let's go back to the part of the program with some of the great shots that we had. We have some magazine covers, I believe, and right here, Bruno was, like I said, the most photographed professional wrestler of all times. When it became the 84, around that time, it all changed. It went into another era of professional wrestling, but Bruno Sammartino on this particular magazine, Wrestling World, as you can see, a bloody mess, and as you can see, Bruno Sammartino was always on the cover of all these great magazines. And you can see here's a real old magazine right here. This is one with Gene Kanish and Kaninsky. They pronounce that Kaninsky, Kanish. What are you talking about, a Kanish, Rocky? You're talking about a Kanish on Shirley Ave? You're talking about a flat roll? You're talking about a cinnamon and raisin? No, it's Gene Kaninsky, I believe. And then you can see on the cover of Ring Wrestling. This was a boxing and wrestling magazine, which you will very rarely see. And on the cover you see Bruno Sammartino and Fred Blassie, and again you can see by the ropes, there's 4 ropes. That was a shot taken from Madison Square Garden, I believe, in the 60s. And then here's another great shot of Bruno Sammartino on the cover with his Worldwide Wrestling Federation Championship belt. And then you have Fred Blassie in the lower corner. They dunked him in some kind of red dye or something. And then in the top you got Johnny Valentine, the father of Greg the Hammer Valentine, against Dick the Bulldog Brower. And here's another one, Wrestling Review, which was a great magazine. And you can see Ray Stevens on the cover. And back in the day, yep, Gorilla Monsoon, better known as Gino, and better known as the Gorilla Spot on TV. Gorilla Monsoon against Bruno Sammartino. He's got the ice picks on Bruno's back. And you can see there was a great, great magazines back. Now there's no magazines. And there's another one called The Wrestler. And Bruno was always on the cover of these magazines. He kept a great profile. And like I said, he was the #1 man that was photographed. The stories were good. Jack Briscoe. And you can even see the ladies of professional wrestling here on this particular cover. Here's the one that went with that 45 of Bruno Sammartino, where he did that interview with, it started out, Bruno, you won the title on May 16th, 1963, I believe, and who's your toughest opponents? And then Bruno goes on talking about, and when you talk about the toughest opponents, and he names off Tanaka and a couple other guys, and the guys at that time, Dr. Bill Miller, and he goes into the long time period saying, as long as the fans love me, it'll be as long as I wrestle. Here's another great ad, Bruno Sammartino. That is one of the oldest championship belts that I have ever seen, and I believe that was the belt that Killer Kowalski was a world champion at one time, and I believe that was the belt that he wore, and then I believe somehow Bruno got his hands on it, and then that became the other shot. And here's a story that was in that magazine. Bruno lost his title, and it goes on to tell you that he wrestled George the Animal Steele, you know, a couple of weeks prior to that match against Ivan Koloff, and Steele hit him on the back with a chair and hit him a little stiff with it, and that was perhaps the reason why Bruno had lost his title to Ivan Koloff, so the story goes. And here's that magazine cover in 1972, The Wrestler, when Bruno ventured off into California, or the Olympic Auditorium, I believe, back in the day, in 1972, and he won that Battle Royal in California. One of his rare appearances. He really didn't like, you know, Mike LaBelle. He didn't like Judo Mike LaBelle, as they would call him, and they really didn't get along, so Bruno didn't really go to LA too much. And here's another shot, Bruno putting the title on Pedro Morales in Madison Square Garden after he defeated Ivan Koloff. And we have the signing right here. This was Boston Garden, I believe, when Bruno Sammartino signed a contract with Abe Ford against Walter Killer Kowalski, who was the king of endurance. And Killer Kowalski, I think, was one of Bruno's very, very tough opponents, because they had some very brutal matches back in the day with Bruno in Shea Stadium, Fenway Park, against Kowalski in that Sicilian stretcher match. And then he had some great matches, whether it be New York, Philadelphia, all over, because you know, back in the day they were going to all these big cities, and it wasn't so much like today. We got the Staples Center, we got the TNA, we got the TWA, we got all these big arenas now that they travel all over the world. And they went to one of the big, big cities on the Northeast, whether it be Washington, D.C., or it be whatever. But Bruno would wrestle all these opponents, and every time he came to your arena, he would have a fresh, new, you know, new opponent, a new storyline, a new opponent, and everyone would be always worried about Bruno. Bruno was going to lose the title that night to this guy, whether it be Dr. Miller, Tanaka, all those great guys back in the day, Hans Mornier, the Big O, all those great wrestlers, Bull Ramos back in the day, he wrestled. He had so many opponents, you can go on. And here's a crowd shot of Bruno right here. He could hardly make it through the crowd. You know, everyone wanted to shake Bruno's hand, touch Bruno. He was just a charisma. Bruno Sammartino was like nobody else. No steroids, train every day. He's basically, you know, doing all the great things that he was doing back when he was a youngster. He was one of the first wrestlers to pick up 640-pound haystack Calhoun. He picked him up by the waist and he lifted him. He didn't really get him into a body slam position, of course, so that was probably impossible. But he picked him up. He had some other great records. He had a bench press record, and he was one of the strongest. That's why they used to call him the Abruzzi Strongman. And he had a rough life. And people know some of the stories about Bruno Sammartino, or some of the books that are out there with Bruno Sammartino. He tells the story about the mountains, that they had to flee up into the mountains with the Germans coming in and taking over his little town and his little building that he was in. And also, his mother took a lot of great risks going down that mountain to find food for them up there in the mountains, because it was the rough old days of professional wrestling. And the things that went on were just crazy. And you'd say the average person wouldn't maintain it. It wouldn't be alive. And I believe Bruno's father was a carpenter. So I hope you enjoyed all the great things about Bruno Sammartino. I'm sure you can look him up on all the great... He might be on YouTube. I know there's a great match. That match with Bruno losing the title, Ivan Koloff, I know is on YouTube. And you could have seen it here on Revere TV, your source of community cable, with who? The Boston bad boy, Rocky Raymond. Because if you want the information, and if you want some good pictures, and if you want to be with me, turn in. Don't turn in too early on Wednesday night, because it's from 8 to 9, 9 to 10. Do it all over again on Saturdays on the loop. Oh yeah, we got it all, whether it be the best of Empire Pro Wrestling, or if you want to see some great legends, we got it here. With who? Rocky Raymond, the Boston bad boy. So we want to see each and every week and keep it complete. Tuning in on Revere TV with all the great things that are happening here. And we hope to see you next time on Legends of Professional Wrestling. Hey, it's Rocky Raymond, the Boston bad boy. I'm here with the international star Astro Man. This man's been all around the Caribbean, everywhere, from coast to coast, all over the world. We want you to watch Empire Pro Wrestling from 8 to 9 on Wednesday nights. Also, from 9 to 10, you can watch Legends with Astro Man. Tell him a couple of words to our Spanish-speaking friends right here in America.
Bueno, familia Lucha Libre, yo soy Astro Man. Vengo a invitarte para que acompañen acá los jueves de 8 a 9 de la noche. La leyenda de la lucha libre. También los pueden chequearlo acá de 9 a 10 de la noche. ¡No te lo pierdas!
Arriba la Rasta! We'll be there.
This man weighs 450 pounds. He weighs in at 893 kilos. This man eats a lot and consumption of red meat. He is not on a diet. This man is Rico Man! Rico Man! This is Rico Man. This man, a man of big size, is coming into EPW. Rico Man, he is made of destruction. He will beat you down. He will twist you. He will take your neck and bang you down again, and then lift you up again and bang you down again. I'm the Boston bad boy. I got this man. He was in the mountains, in the bush. I went to the bush to get this man. He had sticks he was carving. He was carving things. He was cutting things. He was hunting animals. He was cutting their throat, drinking their blood to survive. Have you seen survival lately? You will not survive. Rico Man. Welcome everyone to Legends of Pro Wrestling right here at your community cable right here. If you want the best, forget the rest. Tuning in each and every week. We keep it complete right here. That's right. Cameraman, zoom in. This week, unbelievable Matt Classics from the Boston Garden. We got unbelievable footage. We got 4 matches of the legendary Bruno Sammartino, and there's this picture right here. We'll show you right here. Fenway Park. We can't stop talking about the legend Bruno Sammartino, because he is the living legend. That's right. He's the man that did it all. I can talk about him each and every show. Oh yeah, we got more footage on Bruno than you can believe, more pictures than you can even believe. Again, with who? Rocky Raymond, the Boston bad boy. He's got all the pictures of Bruno
all the footage of Bruno right here on this camera right here that you're looking at on my table today. Bruno Sammartino will be meeting in the opening Matt Classic, Mr. Fuji, and then he's going to go on with George the Animal Steel, the Detroit Destroyer, in 2 great matches from the Boston Garden. Then we're going to show you Patterson. Pat Patterson, unbelievable wrestling action. Man from California coming to the Northeast. Took it by storm. Supposedly the first Intercontinental Champion with their make-believe tournament in Rio de Janeiro, which we all know that never happened. But what did happen in Rio de Janeiro was Buddy Rogers did defeat in a tournament Antonio Rocco for the WWF Championship, Tri-WF, which was the belt that Bruno beat Buddy Rogers in 60 seconds. Madison Square Garden, Bruno scooped up Buddy Rogers, put him in that backbreaker, clamped it on nice and hard, and won that championship, and then we all know it's history from there. Getting back to that picture of Fenway Park, we got Fenway Park with Bruno Sammartino, the first picture that we had, and that's the spectacular at Abe Ford's Wrestling Spectacular, which was one of the greatest shows ever to be shown. We're showing you this program. This is the poster that they actually had. You can see it's signed by Bruno Sammartino, as well as Killer Kowalski, the man, the great feuds that they had. But this was the first time ever in the Northeast, an outdoor stadium match with Bruno and Killer Kowalski in a Sicilian stretcher match, which of course Bruno Sammartino was very successful. And on this spectacular night, we had a great array of, we had a steel cage match between Dick the Bulldog Brower and the original Sheik, 6 midgets, Rivera versus George the Animal Steel, 4 ladies in a tag match. And some of the names that were on that roster at that particular time, you want to call it a roster, call it whatever at that particular time, we had Haystack Calhoun, Mitsu Awakawa, Toro Tanaka, Crazy Luke Graham was on that card. We also had another man you may not remember, Earl Maynard, was like a big Tony Atlas back in the day. And the matches were great. Dominic DiNucci, Lou Albano, all those great names. And there's another, this is the program. The actual program from the show, Bruno Sammartino, and we had, of course, the spectacular steel cage match with all these great things. We're going to talk about programs this week. Programs in the later part of the program. We're going to go into magazines, and then, of course, what you all want to see, them great matches from the Boston Garden that Boston Bad Boy Rocky Raymond filmed back in the day with that particular camera. Here's the inside shot of that program with the greatest match ever with, as you can see, Killer Kowalski was a no-nonsense man. He used to grab you, stick your fingers in the mouth, the eyes everywhere, and of course he had that move called the iron claw. He'd clamp down on your stomach, squeeze you and squeeze you. Now, I wrestled Killer Kowalski when I was 21 years old, IBEW Hall in Waltham, Mass., which, of course, I was defeated, of course. And basically, I was going for the IWF World title at that particular time, which was a regional title here in New England that Killer Kowalski had his league called the IWF, International Wrestling Federation. And he toured all over, of course. That's where actually, you know, where I became Executioner #2 when Big John Studd became Big John Studd. He was actually known as Chuck O'Connor at one time, the blonde man, and then he became Big John Studd. There's another part of that program with the midgets. As you can see, that was a great program from Fenway Park. Some of the great programs that you will see on this show, you will not see them anywhere. As far as that poster in the opening, it's on sale right now at for $5,000. It's a donation we want to get. We want to get it for Empire Pro Wrestling. Maybe we can do a show with the monies, or we can do something good with the monies. As you can see, Victor Rivera. You know, Victor Rivera was a great Puerto Rican sensation, as you can see in the middle of that program. And some of the other great things we're going to see, there's Abe Ford. You can see that he was socking it out of the park, and I believe at that particular time it was the biggest rated outdoor attendance ever. This was before WrestleMania. This was before Hulkamania, the bleach blonde, whatever. He can't, you know, he can't do 3 moves anyways. The only move he knew was that leg drop, and if he had 3 moves, he's lucky. Much like most of these guys that are wrestling today, they got 5 or 6 moves, and that's it. They don't know how to go from one opponent to another opponent, like when Bruno wrestled. Here's a program right here. As you can see in the middle of that program, it's Rocky Raymond against Killer Kowalski. I believe that was a Bedlam from Boston, which you're going to see in the weeks to come here on Legends of Professional Wrestling with who? Me, it's BBB. He brings you the best, forget the rest. Tuning in each and every week. And there's a cover picture of Bruno Sammartino. As you know that we mentioned in the weeks before, that Bruno Sammartino was the most photographed professional wrestler of all time before the 80s came about. And now these magazines, you can't find any of these magazines. They're not on the market. Matter of fact, I don't even think Vince McMahon is doing any magazines now. I mean, he had a booklet that I call it a booklet, or I call it an outlet book, where you can buy T-shirts, belts, and all them sort of things. Here's another ICW program. ICW AWA, which I wrestled for back in, I believe, the late 90s, I believe. And you can see Jimmy Snooker on that cover with Larry Zbyszko, Nick Bockewinkle, and Jumpin' Joe Savoli with the side headlock on the Prince of Darkness. And on the back side of that program, you can see the Boston Bad Boys with their manager at the time, the Pink Assassin, as well as some other great pictures with Jumpin' Joe with the fan. And on the weeks to come, you're going to see the great matches from ICW. You might see the best of the Boston Bad Boys, Tony Rumble, Rocky Raymond, as well as, here's an old one here. The Sheik, the original Sheik. He lays claim to the Midwest Mat title. I mean, there was a lot of titles back in the day. There was a lot of territories back in the day. Now there's just one show. You got TNA, and then you have you know, the shows that they got with the new network now with the WWE Entertainment, and they show all the stuff on there. But back in the day, they had a program for every show. Every show had a little story about the particular wrestler that was in the program or on that card that night. There's another one of the Sicilians, Captain Lou Albano and Tony Altamore, which they were tag team champions back in the day, and they were defeated by Bruno Sammartino and Sparis Arion. They took the title back in, I believe, the 60s. And here's another one right here, Argentina Rocca. You girls remember, all the people that remember Argentina Rocca? He used to hit you with his feet like they were hands. He could move his feet like they were hands, slap you in the head, get you up in them backbreakers, drop kicks, all sorts of aerial activity. Argentina Rocca, the guys might have saw him on WLBI Channel 56 TV. And here's Buddy Rogers right here. Here's the old nature boy, Buddy Rogers, I believe that's Buddy Rogers. And he was a great champion back in the day. And this was on an old program with Buddy Rogers. Here's the big Mr. Biggs. Haystack Calhoun, 640 pounds. This was the man that no one could lift off the mat. No one could budge him. He was like a freight train. You couldn't move him, but Bruno Sammartino was one of the first people to pick up Haystack Calhoun. He wrapped him around the leg, got him up. Didn't get him up in a full body slam position, but he got him up there. And another man that picked up Haystack Calhoun, Frenchie Lamont, the midget. And here's, I believe, Pat O'Connor, the NWA champion, Pat O'Connor, which goes back to the days which was the NWA, the oldest faction wrestling alliance in the world, bar none. They had more committees, more people, more groups. If it wasn't St. Louis, it was Mid-Atlantic. If it wasn't Mid-Atlantic, it was, you know, the whole areas down there that they had all these great areas called the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, the oldest faction alliance of wrestling in the world today, even before the WWF, if you will. You know, the South is a big area. Here's a real old one. This is a real old program. This is Blackjack Lanza. He was going to be facing, I believe, Dory Funk Jr. for the title. And it wound up at, I believe it was at the Kiel Auditorium, I believe. I mean, this might be Kansas City program. And on the, I believe that was Gene Kaninsky. I want to pronounce that right because I believe on the last show I did not. So Gene Kaninsky, which you may remember his son wrestling the AWA, and then he came into the WWE at the time as Nails. He had that orange suit on, and they changed their storylines a little bit from being an NWA wrestler. His father was a great NWA wrestler, as well as great battles with Bruno Sammartino in Madison Square Garden. Okay, here's another program. This is an old, I believe it's a Texas program, because I can see Fritz Von Erich on the cover. And these are programs that you will not see anywhere. Nowhere, no how. These are championship matches that show your story on the guys, that let you know what would be going on, what's going to be happening. Here's another one, Big Time Wrestling. This is maybe where the name came about with my buddy Mark Estridge, who does a little work with Big Time Wrestling, the new one that's out now. Have a lot of the new names that are on there. And you can see Fritz Von Erich was on the cover with the United States Championship. And then you got Pat O'Connor, you know, feuding with Lanza again down in the old South down there, where they had all the great matches, great you know, unbelievable stuff. Here's an old one. Oh yeah, Waco Arena. That has to be down in Texas somewhere. Some of these names on here I know you aren't gonna remember. And there's DiBiase's father on there, I believe, DiBiase Sr. And a couple of guys I'm really not familiar with. And here's one from California now. There's the Guerreros, Chavo Guerrero. I think that's Chavo, as they say, Chavo Classic, and then the younger brother. There were so many Guerreros back in the day, but this was one of the shows that were at the Olympic Auditorium. And great shows coming out of the Olympic Auditorium with some of the great names that came out of there. Mike LaBelle was the promoter, and they had great matches. There's a shot of John Tolis, Championship Wrestling from California, I believe. And they had some great feuds in California with Fiery Fred Blassie, the Fashion Plate, and John Tolis. Matter of fact, I was down there 1981. My father lived down there in Long Beach, and I got to go down there and wrestle once or twice at the Olympic Auditorium. The paydays weren't that great, so I didn't really, I was happy to be there, but not happy for the payday. Here's Bob Backlund. Bob Backlund, before he came into the WWE, as you can see, Hulk Hogan as well as Andre the Giant on this card. And this was a fold out. Here's a real old, you know, this was at the theater back there in St. Louis, I believe. And you can see Dick the Bruiser and the Crusher against the Chain Gang, which was the Dillinger Boys back in the day. Some of the great programs. I love looking at this old stuff. I love showing you people this stuff that you never saw before. You never will see it ever again. But where can you see it? Right here on the Legends of Pro Wrestling with who? Rocky Raymond, the Boston Bad Boy. Get it right, get it tight. Get it every night right here. Wednesday nights we're on. That's right. You watch us on Revere TV. Wednesday nights from 8 to 9. We got the Legends. Saturday it's on at 12 noon. And again, we have the best of EPW. There's a shot of those dirty Dillinger Boys, better known as, oh yeah, they were really dirty back in the day. Some of the guys didn't want to drive in the car with them because their lifestyle was their lifestyle, and they brought that lifestyle into the professional wrestling, driving motorcycles, smoking cigars, drinking, carrying on, doing all the things that I guess you do if you're in a chain gang. And right here we got Bill Watts and Verne Gagne. This is the match of the decade, Gagne against Watts for the title. I didn't get to see this one, but I believe it was a great match because Verne Gagne was a great technical wrestler. Bill Watts was a big man, came into the Northeast area and did have his feud with Bruno Sammartino. I think everybody wrestled Bruno. Here's another one, another wrestling program, Verne Gagne. Why Gagne can't win, and that's against Pat O'Connor, I believe. Got him up in that scoop slam. I believe that O'Connor's taking the bump. These programs are another one of the Crusher. Unbelievable programs. Like I mentioned, you won't see these programs anywhere in the world, but you're seeing it here, where? On Revere TV. We bring you the best, so forget the rest. There's Mad Dog Vachon. You know the Vachon brothers? When they had him on TV, you want to work my leg, you want to pull my leg off. That's him, the Mad Dog. They let him pull his leg off on TV. I believe Lawler did that. And they had the great. Here's one from the Boston Garden with Bruno Sammartino. And these programs were great. Look at Bruno. I mean, this is their presence. Just a picture of Bruno shows you the real manhood of professional wrestling. Now you watch TV, you got all these show-offs on there and 20,000 clotheslines and talking for 20 minutes. Here's another one, Bruno Sammartino in the Boston Garden. Oh, great, great, great shots of these. Here's another one, Wrestling News. This was a great magazine. They stopped all these good magazines that you could know about, all the things that were happening in wrestling, whether it was down south, mid-Atlantic, maybe it might have been Continental, maybe it might have been somewhere in those areas. And there's the Bruno Sammartino record. That was the little 45 where Bruno did the interview. And you may have saw this back on one of the other shows of Legends. And with this particular, with that 45, you got a big poster of Bruno. It says, "Sock it to him, Bruno." I got that also signed. And here's the magazines of Bruno Sammartino. He was always on the cover of all the magazines. This was one of his battles, I believe, in Madison Square Garden, where he ended up becoming a bloody mess, which some of the great things now that are on TV, you really can't go into it. All right, we're going to go into the part of the program we call the Matt Classics from the Boston Garden. So keep it tuned in. Don't get up now, because you're going to see some great, great footage from the Boston Garden. Fuji against Bruno, the Animal, and then Patterson will be meeting Bruno Sammartino.
Okay, here's another one. Here's a big one. August 22nd, 1980. Bruno Sammartino against Mr. Fuji. Mr. Fuji with those educated hands now, double oblique shot, putting the boots, I should say the feet to Sammartino. As you know, these Oriental wrestlers do not wear footgear. Oh, there's a big karate kick to the throat of Sammartino. Fuji putting the boots to him like nobody's business. Armbar now, twisting Sammartino over. You gotta watch out for these Orientals. They'll never come up with a bag of salt. Throw it in your eyes. And Sammartino comes back now, Irish whip off the ropes. Big elevation back, body drop, sending Mr. Fuji. Big arm drag now by Sammartino as he's in control of the match. Off the ropes again now, big shoulder tackle now. Mr. Fuji sent railing back into the arm drag. As you know, Sammartino working one part of the body, working down the man. Fuji shoots him in again. Another tackle by Sammartino. Hip toss, no avail. Reversal by Sammartino. Kick out by Fuji. Oh, a big drop kick by Bruno Sammartino. You don't see that much. Arm drag on Fuji. Unbelievable. Bruno Sammartino with a flying drop kick. You won't see that much. Big slam now. No, with Fuji. Big slam on Sammartino. Kick out now by Sammartino. Drop kick by Mr. Fuji. And an arm drag again by Sammartino, working that arm. Bruno Sammartino, the living legend. Shooting off the ropes now. Fuji, another shoulder tackle now. Sammartino crisscrossing. Sammartino up now. Oh, rolls over the back of Fuji. Victory roll. No, Fuji holds on. Nobody home. Fuji. Nobody home. Sammartino with another big arm drag. Unbelievable match action from the Boston Garden. These are the great match classics. You won't see these in any video store, and you won't catch them on the Entertainment Network for sale either. You can only get them at the Matt Classics headquarters. You got the volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The best of Bruno 1 and 2. The best of Superstar Billy Graham. Oh, double oblique shot by Mr. Fuji. Those educated fists now. And those Oriental kicks to the chest now. Bruno Sammartino. Fuji working on the trapeze muscle. And we got all the great ones. We got the best of Bob Backlund. Oh, yeah. The best of the Valiant Brothers. Handsome Jimmy Lesser's Johnny. Gentleman Jerry. Sammartino with a big scoop slam on Mr. Fuji. And Fuji with those educated hands. Double karate chop. And a knife edge across the throat of Sammartino. Another kick to the midsection now. Sammartino into that corner. Oh, unbelievable action. He hit that corner buckle. And Fuji now with the karate chops to the back of the neck of Sammartino. And a big boot to the midsection of Mr. Fuji, and Sammartino turning on hot and heavy. A heavy blow to the side of the head, a heavy knee, but he can't stop the moves of Mr. Fuji. A double boot to the chest of Mr. Fuji. Another big deep boot to the midsection, sending Fuji reeling. Sammartino in the corner now. Another knee, and Sammartino a couple of heavy right blows to the head. Another big boot sending Fuji reeling. And another heavy blow to the side of the head. Fuji with another double oblique shot and uneducated feet. Karate chops, whipping Sammartino into the corner. Oh, nobody home. Fuji might have hit that steel post. And there's the cover. It's all over. The living legend, Bruno Sammartino. Another victory over Mr. Fuji. And we're back at the Boston Garden, May 15th, 1977. Bruno Sammartino versus the Detroit Destroyer, George the Animal Steele. And he's the man that has given Bruno Sammartino the hardest test, because he's the animal. He rips apart the building. He pulls the stairs apart, tables, chairs, anything this animal can get his hands on. And it's Bruno Sammartino in the corner now. Watch out for George Steele. He's an animal. He'll sneak up on you like nobody's business, looking for that foreign object. John Stanley got his hands full tonight with this Detroit Destroyer against the living legend, Bruno Sammartino. Sammartino with a big arm drag now on the animal. And a second one sending the animal railing outside the ring. Look, he's trying to rip apart the building already. He's ripping down the barriers around the ring. He's throwing chairs in the ring. Sammartino got to watch out tonight. It's a very dangerous match. Look out, he got that foreign object, Bruno. Oh, right into the throat now. Sammartino down in the middle of the ring. And George the Animal Steele with a blatant chokehold on the living legend. And our referee, John Stanley, begins to count. The Detroit Destroyer now behind Sammartino, with the reverse headlock, and Sammartino right below the midsection. And another one, and one up to the head now. And a second one now. George Steele over the top rope now. Sammartino ramming Steele into the barriers outside the ring. And it looks like George Steele's trying to bring all sorts of wood in the ring. 2x4s. Unbelievable now. Sammartino in the midsection. One in the belly. And follows one up to the side of the head now. Big shot with the 2x4. And George the Animal Steele, the Detroit Destroyer, down on the ropes now, feeling the wrath of the Abruzzi strongman, as Bruno up on the throat with 2 feet. John Stanley beginning to count now as George the Animal Steele tries to find his way outside the ring for a breather. Oh yeah, these are the great night classics. These are Bruno's days of professional wrestling. As you can see, Steele outside the ring breaking something up. He was known as the Animal, and rightfully so. He's got a piece of a chair now. John Stanley ducked the chair. Sammartino outside the ring as he rams his head into those plexiglass barriers outside the ring. Now down into the ring apron. Sammartino's not going to take nothing from the Animal tonight. George the Animal Steele with a low blow now on Sammartino. And another heavy blow to the back of the head, sending Sammartino railing down into the corner as the Animal, George Steele, starts putting some heavy boots to the midsection of the living legend now, caught in the corner. Another right hand across the forehead, and another one followed up to the back of the neck. George the Animal Steele, not much of a wrestling match, just some heavy blows going back and forth. Sammartino got his dander up. He's putting the boots hot and heavy. George the Animal Steele in the corner now. The referee can't control the match. He's ringing the bell. He's looking for some assistance now. Sammartino going crazy. He knocks down John Stanley, the referee. Bruno's like a wild animal. George Steele getting choked in the corner. Bruno has taken enough of the shenanigans with all these foreign objects. And they're trying to get some help from the dressing room at this particular time. And a couple referees are coming out. Tom McNeely, as well as Eddie Santa Maria, but that's not going to help him. Sammartino like a wild bull, choking on George the Animal Steele. 3 referees. They can't control a couple of wrestlers coming into the ring now. Sammartino cannot be contained here. The golden boy, Arnold Skolin. George Steele now trying to get up. These 2 wild animals look like Steele's trying. Watch out for Steele. Steele's like an animal. He's trying to get back at Bruno. You can't separate these 2 wild wrestlers tonight. Unbelievable as George Steele finally gets ushered out of the ring. Bruno Sammartino. Looks like Bruno was disqualified. Here's the return match, July 11th, 1977. Bruno Sammartino in his return match against George the Animal Steele. And our special guest referee, Gorilla Monsoon, the Moncharian Giant. He's going to try to keep control of this match tonight. The Animal. A hairy, green-tongued savage. And the living legend, Bruno Sammartino. There's the bell for our wrestling action. Oh, he's unbelievable, George Steele. But Bruno's moving right in. Boots in midsection. Couple of right hands. George Steele is caught in the ropes now. Monsoon, the referee, trying to let him out. And Sammartino, George Steele. Steele with that foreign object now. Oh, right into the throat of Sammartino. Gorilla Monsoon trying to find that foreign object. A master at concealing it. George the Animal Steele, the Detroit Destroyer, puts a big left boot to the chest of Sammartino. In the corner now with a couple of heavy blows. This is the return match. This is the one that it's all about, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation title. The Animal used to come in during the October season. And he used to beat down all the wrestlers till he got to the #1 contender slot. Sammartino back in the corner now. He's going wild again. Bruno Sammartino. Unbelievable boots to the midsection. Uncontrolling right hands to the side of the head now. And George the Animal Steele has woken up the lion. Sammartino whips him over that top rope. Holding on now, trying to hold on. It's George the Animal Steele. Oh no! He's got that timekeeper's table. George the Animal Steele, Gorilla Monsoon trying to... Oh, Bruno rams his head into that timekeeper's table. That's a steel table. Steel top, wooden frame. Bruno Sammartino putting the boots to the Animal hot and heavy. He's going to show the Animal tonight that he is the Abruzzi Strongman. He is the Worldwide Wrestling Federation champion. And he's putting the boots to George Steele. George Steele looks like he might be out. Coming back now, looks like he's ripping apart that corner buckle with his teeth. He used to like to eat those corner buckles. Ripped them apart. Used that stuff on the inside, raking across the Animal's face. Monsoon trying to find that object. Sammartino got it now. Got that foreign object now on George the Animal Steele now. He's using it on the Animal. Big blow to the side of the head of George the Animal Steele, who finds himself outside the ring. Up against those barriers again. These 2 wild men, wild Donnybrook here in Boston, ramming his head up against that plexiglass. And the security outside the ring. Better stay away from Steele. And a second time he rams him right into that plexiglass. Sammartino. Gorilla Monsoon, he's got a chair. Watch out, Steele. Oh, he hit Monsoon with it. Sammartino gets the chair. Rams it across the head of Steele. Looks like a 3 count. Yes, Gorilla Monsoon. George the Animal Steele taking a nap now. The golden boy, Arnold Skolin. And Bruno nails Steele with the chair. And that'll be the end of this feud in Boston. Gorilla Monsoon got clocked with the chair. Oh, watch out, Steele got a chair. Oh, he clocked Monsoon. He clocked Monsoon on the head with that chair. The Animal.
Bruno Sammartino, and I can't believe that I'm with my 8mm camera, Super 8 right here. Bruno, this is the camera that took all the film. You got to hold it in your hand.
That's amazing, because I've seen some of the films you've taken, and it's hard to believe. I'm not very knowledgeable when it comes to these cameras, but it's hard to believe at all that you've shot and what fantastic work it came out of this little camera.
It's unbelievable. My friend Danny Garbett, I'd like you to say hi to Mr. Danny Garbett, because he used to carry the tripod for me up to the ring.
Is that right? Danny, how are you? I'll tell you. So you were part of this, and that's great, because guys did a phenomenal job.
And we're coming to Boston. The legend, Bruno Sammartino, be there or be square.
Here at World Gym in Somerville, oh, I'm so elated I can only be here. It's me, it's BBB. We're here with the Great 8 and the living legend, Bruno Sammartino. All you people, watch it from 10 to 11. It's the best of Empire Pro Wrestling with this man, the living legend. Tell him, Bruno.
That's right. Be sure and watch it, because if you want to see the best of yesteryear and whatever, this is the place to be.
Be there!
And we're back here at the Boston Garden, the Great Mat Classics, July 14th, 1979. It's Bruno Sammartino, the living legend, against the Intercontinental Champion at this particular time, Patterson, bringing the North American Championship here to the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. Sammartino, Patterson, and Patterson jumps the bell. And you can see it's Bruno Sammartino now, getting attacked by Patterson before the bell here in Boston Garden. And our referee for this one, Freddie Spada, holding back Patterson. And this match should prove to be one of the greatest matches ever in the Boston Garden. One of my favorites. I'm the voice of the Mat Classics from the Boston Garden, Rocky Raymond, and there's our bell for our wrestling action. It's Patterson, Sammartino, collar and elbow now. Patterson with the right hand, and Bruno returns one of his own. And a second one, sending Patterson reeling, a big boot to the midsection. Patterson down, and a heavy blow to the side of the head of Patterson, lifting him about 3 or 4 feet off the mat. Sammartino ready for this one. After being attacked before the bell, Sammartino grabbing the arm and wrenching down on Patterson, the Intercontinental Champion here in Boston. And Sammartino got an arm stretcher on Patterson. And a hammerlock now by the living legend, Bruno Sammartino, one of the greatest champions of all time in the professional wrestling business. Oh yeah, traveled worldwide, beat them all. One of the greatest charismas in all of professional wrestling. Didn't need no ring music, no fancy ring jackets, no ring attire. Just a pair of tights and a pair of boots. Sammartino, with one of his favorite holds, the hammerlock, gets you down in the middle of the ring and wrenches 6, 7, 10 times, and the crowd would go bananas. Bruno Sammartino, a gentleman in the ring and a gentleman out of the ring. Well, let me rephrase that. Could be very brutal in the ring now. Patterson with a big scoop slam on Sammartino. Kick out by Sammartino. Back on the arm now. It's Bruno Sammartino with that arm bar. Wrenching down on it, hit a heavy knee. And our referee, Freddie Spada, one of the main event wrestling referees here in Boston. Patterson shoots Sammartino in, one shoulder tackle by Sammartino. Big hip toss by Patterson. Kick out by Sammartino. Arm drag by Bruno Sammartino now, and Patterson finding the wrath of Sammartino. 2 arm drags send him railing outside the ring. And the crowd going crazy for the Abruzzi Strongman. Oh yeah, Patterson coming to you from California with that bleach blonde hair. Bruno Sammartino wrenching his arm on that top rope. Bruno working one part of the body, being the arm, wrenching that arm across the top rope. Sammartino in the corner now, putting the boots hot and heavy now. Patterson finding himself on the bad end of Bruno Sammartino's disposition as he rams into that steel post. Patterson outside the ring now, begging for mercy. Back in the ring now, he shoots Sammartino into one shoulder tackle now. Sammartino crisscrosses, hits the rope. A double axe handle sending Sammartino outside the ring. Patterson, one of the most devastating professional wrestlers of all time. Maybe known better in California with Ray Stevens as the Blonde Bombers in the California area. Irish whip now sending Sammartino railing. Hip toss out of the corner. Patterson in for a lateral press. Just a 2 count now on Sammartino as Patterson wrenches up behind with the reverse headlock. Sammartino coming out with the hammerlock now. Great mat action from the Boston Garden. These were the days of Sammartino. These were the living legends days, as he's got Patterson now, elbow, shoots into the ropes now. One shoulder tackle by Patterson, crisscross. Big scoop slam by Sammartino into a lateral press now. Just a 2 count now as Patterson kicks out, and a scoop slam of his own now on Sammartino. Nobody home, Patterson. Arm drag by Sammartino. Look at the speed. Look at the agility and ability of the living legend. Shoots him into the ropes now. One shoulder tackle low. Sidestep Patterson. Hits him with the knee now. Sammartino feeling the wrath of Patterson. Side headlock by Pat Patterson. Shoots him in now. Double knockdown. And this will bring a count now by the referee. And Sammartino coming around. And Pat Patterson locks in the side headlock on Patterson. Shoulder tackle now. Sammartino sent outside the ring. 10 count on the outside now as our referee starts to count up the living legend. Sammartino up on his feet now, and Patterson in the middle of the ring. Another scoop slam by Pat Patterson. Looks like Patterson's going up to that top rope. No, Sammartino meets him with a big right hand. Spins him down around the turnbuckles. Pat Patterson caught off guard. Shoots him to the ropes now. Sammartino with that devastating bear hug on Pat Patterson. The referee looking now for submission now. Patterson holding on, rakes the eyes of Sammartino. And the living legend finds himself outside the ring, a little blurry. And Patterson's inside the ring now, meeting Sammartino on the apron. A couple of heavy right hand blows to the back of the neck. A left, a right. Pat Patterson, one of the great punchers in professional wrestling. And Sammartino pushes him back now. Right hand of his own. Another right hand of Sammartino coming back. Patterson outside the ring. Sammartino gonna ram him. Oh! Patterson sliding down on that hardwood floor here in the Boston Garden. Patterson outside the ring. All messed up. Sammartino wants him in the ring. Another boot to the side of the head, followed up by a right hand. It's Sammartino, the Abruzzi strongman. And Patterson swinging wildly. Sammartino right on the mark. And a boot to the head now. And Patterson looking for higher grounds. Trying to run outside the ring. Catch a breather, but Sammartino, no way. Another right hand, they're going back and forth, tooth and nail. Oh, they're battling each other hot and heavy. Heavy, heavy blows back and forth. Patterson outside the ring. Sammartino in the ring. Another right hand blow to the forehead. Another one, and Patterson finding out why Sammartino, the living legend. And Patterson outside the ring, looking for a breather. Sammartino follows him out. This could be a problem. This could be a problem. Another right hand blown out. Sammartino. Patterson really out on his feet. Watch out. Patterson's got a chair now. Oh, down across the back of Sammartino. He caught him with that wooden chair. Patterson back in the ring. The referee's counting. Oh no, Sammartino might have been counted out. Patterson wins the match. And we're back at the Boston Garden, August 18th, 1979, the Lumberjack match between Bruno Sammartino and Pat Patterson. This was the final match between Patterson and Sammartino, and around the ring you see such great names as the Valiant Boy, Jimmy Valiant, as well as Johnny Raj, Dominic DeNucci, all the great people that were on the card that night. Sammartino attacks Patterson before the bell. A little return from the last one. And Sammartino going crazy on Pat Patterson. This is a lumberjack match as Sammartino with a heavy right hand to the side of the head of Pat Patterson. Nikolai Volkov on the other side of the ring. The Iron Sheik. Unbelievable wrestlers outside the ring. Back in the day of the old mat classics from the Boston Garden. Pat Patterson getting a taste of his old medicine. Attacking Bruno before the bell in the previous encounter. Irish whip off of a big boot to the midsection as Sammartino buries that right leg right into the midsection of Pat Patterson. On the other side, you may see Johnny Raj and all the other great wrestlers that were in the building that particular night. Sammartino going crazy now in the corner on Pat Patterson. Pat Patterson looking for a powder now as the living legend Bruno Sammartino starts to turn it on in this lumberjack match. Oh yeah. This is the final match for Patterson. He pushed Bruno to the limit now. And Sammartino looking towards Jimmy Valiant. A big right hand now sending Patterson outside the ring. As you see some of these lumberjacks sending them right back in. Sammartino going crazy on Patterson. Pat Patterson, the Intercontinental Champion at this particular time here in the WWF. Sammartino in the corner now, Irish whip by Patterson. Sending Sammartino in those corner buckles. Oh, nobody home. Patterson getting rammed his own shoulder into that collar buckle. And outside the ring, you see these lumberjacks sending Patterson right back to Sammartino. Just a 2 count now, lateral press now on Pat Patterson. Sammartino with a heavy knee to the side of the head. And Patterson comes back with a right hand, followed up by a reverse chin lock, and he rams Sammartino into that top turnbuckle. Snap man now by Patterson. He's going up to that top rope. If he catches this one, it might be all over. Oh, nobody home as Sammartino moves out of the way of trouble as Patterson finds himself in serious trouble. Sammartino working now on the leg of Pat Patterson. These are the great days of professional wrestling. These are the Mat Classics from the Boston Garden. The best of Bruno Sammartino Volume 2. And if you get to see all the other 5 volumes, you'll see some great wrestling action. Whether it be the best of Bob Backlund, the best of Superstar Billy Graham, the best of the Valiant Brothers, and the best of Bruno Sammartino Volumes 1 and 2. Outside the ring, Patterson high. As you see them groaning back in the ring. A couple of guys outside the ring throwing Patterson back in this lumberjack match in the Boston Garden. And Sammartino and Patterson battling back and forth. Sammartino gets whipped to that corner post. And Patterson now, oh, it looks like he's got his leg caught up in those ropes. Big Nikolai Volkov outside the ring now looking to help Pat Patterson. Jumping up and releasing his leg. He got it hooked in that top turnbuckle. Very dangerous move now, as you can see Pat Patterson and Nowhere Man. The crowd going crazy here in Boston. They want to see Bruno put him away back and forth now. Rights and lefts and rights. Unbelievable action here. Sammartino cinches up on a side headlock now as they shoot each other into the ropes. Double knockdown, Sammartino down. And they're up again, side headlock by Sammartino. And Sammartino outside the ring. Watch out, Big Nikolai Volkov's over there. Big Nikolai, the Sheik's over there. They're throwing Sammartino back in. This is a lumberjack match. And a lateral press by Pat Patterson, and Sammartino kicks out. Patterson down with a big deep knee across the chest. And a third one sending Sammartino reeling into the ropes. Big knee to the side of the head now. That's how you get those cauliflower ears. Those heavy blows to the side of the head. Sammartino coming back with 3 right hands of his own, and he sent them reeling with that baseball punch. Looked like he was going for first base. Sammartino, heavy blows to the side of the head. Just a 2 count now. Off the ropes again, Sammartino, shoulder tackle on Pat Patterson. Patterson now, big knee to the midsection of Sammartino as he catapults off those ropes. And Sammartino now, it looks like Patterson's going for a Boston Crab. A Boston Crab on Sammartino. The crowd's behind Sammartino. Pat Patterson now, putting all he can, all the strength that he can muster up. And our referee just waiting to ring the bell, but Sammartino, he's not giving in this easy. No, not for these wrestling fans here in Boston. Outside the ring, Sammartino. Nikolai Volkov, watch out for him, watch out for the Sheik. The Sheik's out there, they throw him back in. Jimmy Valiant hoping over there. And a third time now, Sammartino outside the ring. Big Nikolai. Nikolai wants a piece of Sammartino. He's lining him up. Oh, he slapped him across the face. Oh, Sammartino come back with a crack of his own on Nikolai. Johnny Rice throwing Sammartino back in the ring. Waiting for him now like a lion, Pat Patterson. But Sammartino, you know this comeback. Watch out. Rights and lefts, Sammartino sending Patterson. Oh, unbelievable throw to those corner buckles. Sammartino off the ropes again now. Big back body drop by Sammartino. And he shoots him in again into that big bear hug. That big bear hug, Sammartino got him right. Hit Nikolai. Nikolai with a big knee to the back of Sammartino. And it's all over. They're going to go crazy now. Putski's in there. Ivan Putski's going crazy now. Sammartino. Unbelievable. They're going crazy here in this lumberjack match. Looks to be that Sammartino may have won the fall in the match due to the disqualification. This is not the way Sammartino wanted it. He had him in that devastating bear hug. Sammartino not too...
And we're back here, Empire Pro Wrestling's greatest hits, Legends' greatest hits. We're right here at the EPW headquarters. with the best of Empire Pro Wrestling. Of course, we have Legends of Pro Wrestling. And you can see it right here with this particular camera. This is it, the Bruno Sammartino cam right here. You can see it right here where Bruno signed the camera right here. And his hands were on this camera, as you saw in the inserts on the time slots. Right here, the Bruno Sammartino cam. And we're going to be showing you each and every week on Legends some of the great matches from the Boston Garden. And we hope that you enjoyed it right here this week with Mr. Fuji. He was unbelievable. George the Animal Steel with 2 matches. The match, the return match. Pat Patterson, the match, the return match. And then the storyline when Nikolai Volkov jumped in the ring when Bruno had the bear hug on him, come in the back with the big knee. They set up the next show for the next month. That's right. Maybe you should go backwards a little bit there on your entertainment network and see how great wrestling was when Bruno was champion, when Pedro was champion. Bob Backlund was a good scientific wrestler. Superstar Billy Graham, more color than a box of crayons. Now we're going to go to some pictures, some old pictures. We got about a little more time. We're going to roll these real fast. We're going to get them rolling. We're going to get them strolling right here at Legends of Pro Wrestling. Shoot it, baby. Right here, the Iron Sheik. No, it's not the Iron Sheik. It's the Sheik from Detroit with the camel clutch. We got the Sheik going to the ring. Oh, yeah. All the great matches, all the great shows that I've been to. There's Dory Funk. Oh, yeah. And we got Stan Stasiak and Victor Rivera. All these great pictures. It's Crazy Luke Graham. That's right, Crazy Luke Graham with a shark skin suit going to the Boston Garden. There's a picture of Crazy Luke Graham. And, you know, we got all these great pictures. They're unbelievable pictures. You're never going to see these anywhere, but we're on Legends of Pro Wrestling. With who? Rocky Raymond. There's Crazy Luke Graham again. Crazy Luke, Crazy Luke. And there's Bruno coming into the Boston Garden. Killer Kowalski and Bruno Sammartino, one of the great feuds in Boston. I took that picture with an Instamatic, that Kodak Instamatic camera. There's Bruno outside the ring, and there's Bruno going after Kowalski. You see down on the lower part of the screen, Professor Toro Tanaka. And then there's a steel cage match. These aren't great pictures, but they're good old pictures. There's the old steel cage, the old cage. There's Victor Rivera, Ivan Koloff and Chief Jay Strongbow. And then we have, I believe, Pedro Morales and Buddy Wolf. Lou Albano, there's an old one of Captain Lou Albano when he was wrestling. And there's beautiful Barbie, known as Barbie Harmon, as the Fabulous Moolah. These are all taken at the Boston Garden. You see that ring? That ring broke. Baron Miguel Cicluna. And when Bruno fought Gorilla Monsoon, Haystack Calhoun, that ring collapsed. There's the midgets, Sky Lolo, Little Beaver, Little Brutus, and Frenchie Lamont. There's Haystack outside the ring. And there's Wilbur Snyder. You know, people know Wilbur Snyder. Here's some bloody shots from the Mid-South area. Bill Watts. There's a bloody one of Bill Watts. And then I believe that's the Great Malenko. I believe that's Malenko, the Great Malenko, I believe. And there's another one, I believe that's, that could be either, that may be Harley Race, I believe. I'm not too sure. I think it might be in this. The Sheik with the manager at the time, Abdullah Farouk, is Dick the Bulldog Brower. Bulldog Brower, Brower Power, he was one part of the KKK. If you people didn't know it, he was legit. And then we got Brower against Ricky Sexton. There's an old picture from the Boston Garden, choking him with that rope. That Bulldog Brower was no joke. Again, Bulldog Brower at ringside at Boston Garden. He was going crazy on Ricky Sexton back in, oh, that's got to be back in, I got to say, like maybe 71, maybe even earlier. There's good old Rocky Raymond with Axe Demolition at one of our great shows. There's, no, that's Dominic DeNucci. And Rocky, where was that? At the beautiful Wonderland Ballroom. DeNucci, yeah, there he is, Dominic DeNucci. He was a great friend of Bruno Sammartino. And there's Johnny Rods with Rocky Raymond, the unpredictable Johnny Rods. Lou Albano, the captain. That was at the Burn Center, I believe. And there's the Bushwhackers, Luke. And there's Rocky Raymond against, I believe that was in Revere at the Wonderland Ballroom against, I believe that was the Franchise. Shane Douglas. Power slam finish. Oh, yeah. There's Tanaka, Professor Toro Tanaka. There's Pampero Firpo, the bull of the Argentines. And there's a great, great shot, I believe, of Pampero Firpo getting attacked before the bell. And Dory Funk Jr., the NWA champion, great scientific wrestler, Verne Gagne. And we have, I believe, Crusher and the Bruiser. Taz and Tyler. Taz and Tyler and Lou Graham, they were the tag team champions. And I don't really can make out who that was, and then Smash Us Alone. Now we're going to go into some magazines, and we're going to wrap it up this week. I hope you enjoyed all the great, great matches from Legends of Professional Wrestling with Rocky Raymond, with this great camera called the Bruno Sammartino cam. And there's that first picture of Bruno Sammartino, which one of my poses was that particular pose right there. If you saw in the opening of the show, the black and white picture of Rocky, and that's where I got the pose from, that particular picture. And here's our magazines on the cover, Bruno Sammartino against Fiery Fred Blassie. And Bruno on the cover again. As these magazines, we can just roll right through them because we got limited time left here on Legends of Professional Wrestling. Ray Stevens, Bruno Sammartino. These were the days of great magazines, great programs, all the great things, Wrestling Review. You got all these great magazines, Jose Lothario, all the great matches. Fiery Fred Blassie and John Tolis. That was a feud that never ended in California. Killer Kowalski on the cover. Oh, yeah, all these great magazines. Take a look now because you won't see them anywhere. Mario Milano, Wrestling Review, and then we have the ladies of wrestling with Bill Watts. Here's an old one. That's from the 50s. These are some old magazines. And there's a shot of Bruno Sammartino giving a drop kick to somebody. And these magazines, like I said, you won't see them. 1969. I felt so fine when I was in 1969. Bruno on the cover of that one. He was a very, very, very photographed wrestler back in the day. Before the days of entertainment, if you will. Pedro Morales, another great wrestling champion. And you saw on Legends of Professional Wrestling, Pedro. And there's the lineup. They had the world ratings back in the day. The top 50 wrestlers back in the day. And there's another old magazine. And another one with Dick the Bulldog Brower on the cover, the wrestler, I believe. And there's some other great, great shots. You may remember some of these guys, you may not. There's Earl Maynard up in the top corner. And there's Gorgeous George on the cover of Wrestling Review. And Bobo Brazil, Gorilla Monsoon, all these great, Verne Gagne, all these great magazines, unbelievable action. And if you want to get this poster, this was the one at Fenway Park, $5,000. Yeah, you got it right here. You got all the matches right here. Right here, the 8mm Super 8 cam. Hope you enjoyed Volume 1 of the Super Show on Bruno Sammartino. He'll always be around in all the wrestling fans and in my head and in Revere TV and all over YouTube. Don't forget, you can watch all this stuff on YouTube. All the matches I got on 8mm right here. This particular camera, the Bruno Sammartino cam. So watch us next time for Volume 2 on the special on the Bruno Sammartino Show.